It's Monday, June 29th, 6:35 p.m. Let's take a look. Worldometers has just resetted a little later than usual. USA number one once again, looking at the cases. 44,000, Brazil second, 25. I am really curious to see what tomorrow's numbers are going to be. After the last 3 days being ridiculously high, while they usually are a lot much lower. We break down the USA for today. California took the number one lead, unfortunately. Deaths is also California. You have Texas and Florida, Arizona, the new epicenters. They haven't named California one, but California is, compared to all the other states, California is growing very slowly with cases and deaths. Could be a lesser harmful strain. Now on to the latest news. We have CDC adds 3 new possible COVID-19 symptoms. The CDC has quietly added congestion or runny nose, diarrhea, and nausea to its list of COVID-19 symptoms. Nowadays, it's like, what isn't a symptom? So everybody's paranoid. They think that if anything is wrong with them, that's COVID-19. Interesting though that they are being reported as doing it quietly. Texas. San Antonio police reported Monday that 56 officers were confirmed positive with coronavirus. They also reported 71 officers in quarantine and 80 civilians in quarantine. 1 month ago, on May 29, the department reported just 6 officers as tested positive. So police are now suffering an outbreak, and it's rapidly spreading through their ranks. FBI, beware of fake antibody testing for COVID-19. Scammers continue to make a profit out of fraudulent, unapproved COVID-19 tests providing false results. The FBI says scammers are seeking to obtain individuals' personal information, names, dates of birth, social security numbers, etc., and personal health information, including Medicare and or private health insurance information, which can be used in future medical insurance or identity theft schemes. That was a new one. India. Hubballi village in fear as COVID-19 test report comes positive after patient's last rites. Tension prevailed at Chabi village in Hubballi, rural Taluk, as a resident of the area near the village died at KIMS due to blood vomiting 4 days back, and his throat swab tested positive for COVID-19 after his last rites were held near the village. He died on June 25th, and KIMS authorities handed over the body to his family. It is said that many people attended the last rites. However, the COVID-19 positive report came later, and villagers are in panic now. The fact that he died from blood vomiting was pretty astonishing, and due to the test, maybe there could be a link to it, but it's a very scary time in that village to have to figure out after the fact that this body they were all near was actually infected. Airline SAS to cut almost 1,600 positions in Denmark due to COVID-19 impact. The Danish cuts translate to about 1,400 full-time positions and include 684 cabin crew, 586 ground crew, and 176 pilots. Danish news agency Ritso reported. Scandinavian airline SAS has given notice to almost 1,600 employees in Denmark, union officials said on Monday. Canada. 800 plus confirmed cases of COVID-19 among migrant farm workers in Ontario. Health officials have stressed the workers arrived healthy and contracted the virus locally. 3 men from Mexico, Bonifacio Eugenio Romero and Rogelio Munoz Santos and Juan Lopez Chaparro, 55, have died. Yeah, that's a shame, really, because these migrant workers are really hard workers, and now that if they get sick or they die, the whole family is in trouble. And just good luck to them. A lot of workplaces are being affected. A lot of people losing their jobs. I don't think it's in this, but I did see a report that I think almost half of all American adults are unemployed now. Somewhere around that. So it's scary. The economic chaos that's going to happen as a result of the mass unemployment hasn't even started yet. It's in its beginning stages. And we will hear a lot more about it later on. Gilead says it will charge $3,120 per patient for COVID-19 drug. Gilead will begin charging U.S. patients for the experimental COVID-19 drug Remdesivir in 2 weeks. The company and the government announced Monday, as cases surge and hospitalizations reach crisis levels in several states. Price already criticized as being too high. The company initially donated a 6-week supply of the drug to states and territories. The final cases of donated supply was shipped today, senior administration officials said. So this drug, it's supposed to help you if you take it early, like you do with HCQ. You need to take it early or else it won't do anything for you. It could do the opposite for you. It's supposed to cause your symptoms to recover faster. It does not guarantee anything against mortality rates. So that is why people are saying that it should have a price reduction, besides the fact that it's obviously overpriced. NBA player Rudy Gobert says he has trouble smelling 3 months after testing positive for COVID-19. I can smell smells, but not from afar. I spoke to specialists who told me that it could take up to a year to return to normal. Gobert also admitted he still feels strange things, but can't definitively say if they are caused by the virus or his break from basketball activities. The NBA star previously came under fire in March after a video of him seemingly making light of the pandemic by touching reporters' microphones and recorders in an exaggerated manner a few days before his diagnosis went viral. I remember this guy. He was a couple of months ago when the NBA started having outbreaks. He was that one guy that was a nothing burger, and he was denying it and touching up all this stuff, and he ended up getting it. And now he can't smell, and it's been months, and he's been feeling strange, which is something that I've been hearing a lot, that people who have had the virus, many of them have this feel of being like in a hangover months after supposedly being recovered. Over 200 urged to quarantine after positive case at Planet Fitness. A gym goer at a Planet Fitness in West Virginia has tested positive for COVID-19. I was waiting for this to happen because it was really inevitable. Catching this virus seems to be universal, as anything that you do seems to put you at risk. And I showed my friend this because she wants to go to the gym again. I told her, no, we can't do it because it's too much of a risk, even though California had opened their gyms. And now this happened, and I showed her, and now she's like, oh, no way. And I said, yes way, but you got to look at the reality of it. Florida. 4 employees at Zoo Miami test positive for COVID-19. They didn't disclose all their info, and they quarantined several employees, but the zoo remains open. Economy over people. Cirque du Soleil files for bankruptcy as a result of COVID-19 pandemic. No strategy to show reopenings. Now, I actually know who these people are. They're this traveling kind of like circus act, also involved with music. They had an album, I think it was in the late 80s, early 90s, called Alegria. And they're known for their really dangerous and flashy acrobats. So it's a shame that they had to go bankrupt. China has put the 400,000 inhabitants of Anxin, a county near Beijing, on another lockdown in response to 18 new cases. So China's obviously lying. They're not locking down an entire county over 18 new cases. It has to be higher than that. But interesting in the article is that they're saying that it was reported that they're locking back down Wuhan, January Wuhan style. And as we saw from the outbreak in Beijing from the salmon and the wood chopping blocks, that they were once again welding people in. There's videos of it. Again, nobody ever talks about this, but it's there. People were being welded back in again. And barometers did reset a couple minutes ago, and also they report like another 17, 18 cases. So China again, disgraceful liars. People with coronavirus are crossing the U.S.-Mexico border for medical care. They'll literally come to the border and call an ambulance. In the past 5 weeks, more than 500 patients have been transferred to hospitals across the state from California's Imperial County, which has the state's highest per capita rate of coronavirus cases, and has seen a larger number of patients crossing from Mexico. Most of the coronavirus patients crossing the border, they say, are Americans. Again, Imperial County, the worst hit county in California right now, is under a lot of attention because of their peculiar case, and I've already talked about it. I mentioned it several times before it came up this much in the mainstream media. Coronavirus led to surge in Alzheimer's deaths. Now this one's really interesting. This article was dug really far back in the log of papers of articles I was going through, and it didn't really get much attention at all. I think it was a local report, but it's very interesting. At least 15,000 more Americans have died in recent months from Alzheimer's disease and dementia than otherwise would have, health officials believe, pointing to how the coronavirus pandemic has exacted a higher fatality toll than official numbers have shown. As COVID-19 devastated older Americans this spring, often by racing through nursing homes, the deadly outbreaks compounded the devastation of Alzheimer's and other forms of degenerative brain disorders that are common among elderly residents in long-term care facilities. Roughly 100,000 people died from Alzheimer's and dementia from February through May, the U.S. Centers of Disease Control and Prevention estimates. Although not all the extra deaths were directly caused by the coronavirus, the fatality rate is 18% higher than average for those disorders in recent years. The death toll began to climb sharply in mid-March, and by mid-April, about 250 extra people with some form of dementia were dying each day, according to CDC. Some of the deaths were likely caused by COVID-19, the disease caused by the new coronavirus, but weren't counted as such on death certificates, according to the CDC. Health experts believe lack of available testing, especially early in the pandemic, attributed to undercounting deaths attributed to COVID-19. So, what we're seeing here is, we know that this is a neurotropic virus. We know that it can invade and attack the nervous system and cause all kinds of neurological issues. And this is something that is still not understood that well. But from all these excess deaths that are out of the norm for this year, we can see that this virus really hit old people hard when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's. And they're not going to report this. It's something you gotta dig out for yourself and look. Me, because I dig very extensively in the morning for articles. I happen to find this in the very, very back of the archive. And so that's today's news. If I could add one more thing, there is a paper that came out that says that in Spain, they may have found the virus in the wastewaters as far back as, I think it was early last year. And it was, I heard about it, but I saw a video today of it by a guy named Dr. John Campbell. Now, I have very mixed feelings about Dr. John Campbell. I'm for him. You know, at least he's not somebody who's denying the virus. You know, he tries to keep people informed, but he moves at the pace of the mainstream media. He just barely started talking about the neurological aspects like 2 or 3 days ago, when he should have done it months ago. And when he first started, he seemed very loyal to China. It would be very hard for him to criticize them. In fact, he applauded their lockdown effects. Now, I'm not going to applaud a country that disappeared infected, that disappeared journalists, silenced doctors, welded people into their homes, starved people to death. So he just, you can just tell from the early videos that he just was completely unwilling to say anything bad about China, and because of that, he received a lot of criticism. But he's still moving on. You know, I watch his videos here and there, but I watch him like a hawk. You know, and in the paper, he was saying that Spain may have had the virus before China. And so this paper, again, not peer-reviewed. It has to be confirmed. And they say they found a small trace of positive samples in a sample of toxic water among all the stuff that they tested. This is very convenient for China because it's a chance for them to shift the blame to Spain, like they already tried to shift the blame to Italy. And I think it's a good chance that this was a false positive or some kind of, you know, we can't just come to any conclusion yet. We have to wait till the paper gets peer-reviewed and see how the story develops. And that's all I got. Those are today's updates. Thank you for tuning in. Tomorrow should be a very interesting day. And that's all I have for now. I'll see you tomorrow.